Welcome everyone to another episode of Darshan Talks. We still have Katina O'Leary on the on the phone, recording with us, and we just had a whole conversation about her interesting background, what brought her to HLM, and we started talking about health literacy itself. And she talked about one of her experiences with a mammogram and how there was an inherent lack of transparency, which left her in a position without control and made her feel, if you will, almost helpless. And it turns out it wasn't well deserved. It was sort of set up by an algorithm, and that sort of got me thinking about this idea of, is there inherently lack of transparency which is causing this problem, and is health literacy part of that solution?
This is the Darshan Talks podcast. Regulatory guy, irregular podcast with host Darshan Kulkarni. You can find the show on Twitter at Darshan Talks or the show's website at darshantalks.com.
What is your take on this, Katina?
Well, I think you're right. There is a lack of transparency in both the healthcare system and the health insurance system, and together it's sort of a perfect storm for people. I have another story that's not dissimilar, but a person in my family is the right age for colonoscopy, and the person went to her primary care provider that was designated by her insurance company. That provider pointed her to a place to go get her colonoscopy. I was the responsible person who took her. You go in and you give them your card, and they do something with it, and then they say, please sit down, it'll be a few minutes, and you sit down and you wait, and they take you and do your procedure. And time passes, and this person got a bill for $15,000.
Wow.
Because the place that she went to get her colonoscopy was out of network. So from a patient perspective, the argument that I have is, why would you think that it's out of network? Why would you think you're in the wrong place when the doctor the insurance company told you to see tells you to go to this specific place? What would make you think you need to call your insurance company and check? Because it all stemmed from the insurance company to begin with.
That makes sense.
But in fact,
are you suggesting the insurance company was the one who directed her?
Well, the insurance company directed her to the primary care doctor.
Right.
And the primary care doctor told her where to go.
Got it.
So
okay.
What I would say is, what would make you think as a patient
right.
that you haven't done everything that you were supposed to do?
Correct.
What would make you think that there's another level of checking that you need to do? But in fact, that's the reality. So the separation between healthcare providers and the health insurance companies and your obligation of a patient is really problematic for people. And most of us don't understand all the sort of nuances, and it's changing pretty quickly. So the rules sort of keep shifting for a variety of reasons for people, and I think it's really dangerous. And best I can tell, the people who get the most sort of consequence are certainly the patients. The providers get paid, the insurance companies are still making money, and people are sort of struggling pretty consistently with medications that aren't covered, out of network costs that are skyrocketing, unexpected bills, all of these things that are happening. And, the consequence to some patients, for example, this person that's in my family, is this person said, well, gosh, if this can happen, I don't really understand what the rules are. I think I'm just going to do everything I can not to go get any care. I'm just going to not do anything because I can't risk the possibility that I would have a large bill for something that's not really a problem. And, in her case, even, she's like, it's a colonoscopy. Nobody wants to do that anyway. So I just won't do those anymore until I'm on Medicare, and hopefully it'll be better when I'm on Medicare.
Which is the exact wrong way insurance companies should be sending you anyways. Because if something bad happens in the meantime, they're taking on an additional bunch of costs that could have been very easily avoided.
Right. So it's counterintuitive.
I'm sorry?
It's counterintuitive.
Exactly. It is counterintuitive. But that really raises the question of pricing transparency. It raises the issue of, in general, are providers and pharmaceutical companies and medical device companies behaving in a way where we expect patients to be far more educated about the system. And the truth is, almost no one would be unless you were in the system. And even the people who are in the system can't keep track of all the changes that keep happening. So how does HLM, for example, help address something like this?
Sure. I think you're absolutely right that the expectation on the system side is that the patients should be able to navigate better. They should be smarter. They should have more information. They should follow the rules. And if only patients did all of those things correctly, there wouldn't be a problem. At HLM, we sort of take the opposite approach. We sort of believe that no matter how smart a patient is, the systems don't make sense. It's not transparent. You can't actually get to the people you need to talk to. In the case of this family member of mine, again, I was there, so I have, the highest degrees that a person can have in my field, and I have all of these years of experience in the medical systems as well as health literacy, and I was with her when she made these choices, and so, I couldn't make sense of it. Right. So if I can't make sense of it, I would assume lots of other people can't make sense of it. I hear doctors say that often, that when it's their own health condition, when they suddenly find themselves or someone in their family diagnosed with cancer or a heart condition or something that they don't actually treat themselves most of the time, that they feel equally confused. So the reality is that we've put a large obligation on people who don't have the skills. There's a huge skills mismatch, and the system is first of all, there are multiple systems and they're all doing that. So it all sort of piles up on the consumer. So what do we do at HLM about this? A lot. So we train people in systems to communicate more clearly with both their verbal communications and their written communications. We also write a lot of materials for people. So we want to make sure that everything that you get when you go into a care environment is health literate and in plain language, and that you get it in multi-formats. What we know is that some people are really comfortable reading information. Other people need to hear it. Some other people need to show it to someone in their family. Some people want to watch a video. Many people need to do lots of those things many times to really process. It depends on how complicated the request is and how new it is and how much exposure you've had. And also, honestly, how scared you are at the time. So if you get a new diagnosis and you feel very scared and confused, you lose the ability to cognitively process for a little while. Your body goes into shock. So you need to be able to have materials in many formats that explain it at your level of understanding whenever you want, however you want, over and over again. And that's what we do. So we create materials, we create trainings, we could create opportunities for patients to engage with providers in the ways that they need to engage in order to understand and make decisions.
Which really, again, this is a great segue because we're talking about how HLM improves a lot of these, and again, I don't want to use the word outcomes because obviously that would imply that there was a clinical trial that went along with it, and I have no idea if there was or wasn't. But I think it changes the conversation at the very least. So what I want to do in the next podcast is talk a little bit about the other ways HLM has engaged and you have engaged in the context of transparency. And we connected in one format. We were talking about lay summaries, and you sort of gave a brief nod to that, but clinical trials in general, and if that's the only place that makes sense. So stay tuned. We've got a lot more to talk about.
This is the Darshan Talks podcast, regulatory guy, irregular podcast with host Darshan Kulkarni. You can find the show on Twitter at Darshan Talks or the show's website at darshantalks.com.